Good morning. Good morning. This is Valerie Leonard. I am the founder of nonprofit Utopia. I want to say thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule to learn more about Grants.gov. I'm sure that you understand Grants.gov, but we're going to do a deep dive and really go through the whole website so that you will have a better feel for what's going on with the navigation. Okay, so before I get started, I just want to let you know that this is the month where we focus on going after federal grants in the nonprofit Utopia community. We share with you how to assess your capacity for um, for applying for grants, and we also share with you, how to, how the grant cycle works. Today, we're going to focus on navigating grants.gov. And before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about Nonprofit Utopia. We're the ideal community for emerging nonprofit leaders, and we also have a mission to train the next generation of ethical nonprofit leaders. And the way we do this is through live streams like this. We do it through an online community. We do it through coaching. We do it through consulting as well as online publications. So without further ado, I just want to go over grants.gov, show you how to navigate, and then we will come back. If you have any questions, just let me know. All right. So give me a moment. Give me a moment to share my screen. All right, so this is the home page for grants.gov. For those of you who are familiar with grants.gov, it has changed somewhat over the years, and we'll, show you what it looks like now. And for those of you who are not familiar with grants.gov, grants.gov is an online portal. It's sort of a one-stop show, for lack of a better word, or one-stop shop for navigating the application process for federal grants. It is also a place where you can learn more about grants, and you can also, download forms and apply for grants and all of that good stuff. So this is the front page. Notice now you can also download apps, so you don't necessarily have to go to grants.gov on your laptop only. You can actually download an app and make it easier to navigate on your phone. Here's a reminder here that this is for grants for organizations and not for individuals. If you're um, looking for benefits for individuals and federal funds for those programs, then you'll go to benefits.gov. And, that's a similar setup here. All right. So again, here you've got navigation bars in the middle. And then here are some links to other areas of the website. You can learn to apply for grants as a team rather than as an individual. You can learn more about the chat box that they have. They give you a warning about the next system maintenance that's coming up in August. You get some grant writing tips here. You get an introduction to using grants.gov for applying for grants. And for those of you who might be familiar with federal grants, you know that right now we're using DUNS numbers. They are in a transition process. And when I say they, I'm talking about the federal government. They're in a transition process where they're going from DUNS numbers to UEIs. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail next week. but these are unique entity identifiers. So people who have DUNS numbers for tracking purposes, you will also have a UEI. And people who are newly registering, you will have a UEI. And here's a link to the Grants Learning Center, and here's their blog. And then, here is a list of, this is a link to things that are changing with Grants.gov. All right, so obviously here there's a search bar at the top. You can search for grant opportunities, and you can also search for site content. You enter your keyword here and then press go, just like you would any other website. All right, here under Learn Grants, this is their Grants Learning Center. You see there's a drop-down menu, Grants 101. It gives you an overview of what grants are. It's not going to necessarily go into detail about, all the technical parts of writing a grant, but it gives you a pretty decent overview. You could talk about eligibility, grant making agencies, grant programs, reporting, policies, terminology, grant systems, careers, and grant fraud. And if you click onto the link, not only do you don't get the drop down menu, but you actually get links to those various areas. So Grants 101. So this talks about the grant life cycle, the pre-award phase, the award phase, all those things we talked about yesterday. Here is the getting started checklist that they like to use, which I think is helpful. This helps you to understand whether or not you are even, eligible for the grants. It helps you understand the life cycle. It shares information about the funding opportunities, the types of funding opportunities. You can learn about the reporting requirements. You can also search for the specific grant you want to apply for. You got to also confirm that you're eligible for that grant, register for Grants.gov, and we're going to go into that in more detail next week. And then the next thing you do is actually apply for the grant. All right. So we'll go back and again, so all of this is under Grants 101. You have grant policies, which are the laws and regulations that impact federal awards. For those of you who are more policy oriented, or for those of you who want to actually have a career in grants management and you really want to understand federal grants, that's a good link for you. The grant eligibility, again, if you click here, this lets you know if you're even eligible. It gives you the criteria. So it talks about who's eligible in terms of government agencies that can apply, educational organizations that can apply, public housing organizations, nonprofit organizations, and even some for-profit organizations. Now, you might not have all of these organizations being eligible for every opportunity that comes out, but these are the types of people or types of entities that are eligible. You've got small businesses that are eligible, and then you've got for-profit organizations, so larger corporations. And then under individuals, you can submit applications for funding opportunity or on your own behalf. And that's for very few opportunities. For the most part, if you're an individual, you need to go to benefits.gov. And then there's even provision for some foreign applicants. Okay. So Here is a tab that focuses on terminology. So if you're not familiar with some of the terms that you might be reading in the application, you have a list, an alphabetical order of what all of these terms mean. And these are the terms in alphabetical order of the terms that they typically use in an application. If there's something you don't know what it means and you want to know what the federal government means when they use it, then you want to look under grant terminology. Now, Grants.gov has over 1,000 opportunities at any given time. And here is a list of agencies. So remember, this is a portal. So every agency that has an opportunity is going to post their opportunity here. So you've got agencies like USAID, AmeriCorps, USDA, Department of Commerce, Department of Defense, Department of Education, Department of Energy, HUD, and so on and so on. So these are the major grant making agencies. And then here you also have links to those agencies. All right. Then after that, you see grant systems. These are the systems that they use not only for applicants, but most of these tools are actually internal. And you have to remember too, and when I say internal, I'm talking about for the federal government and their agencies. So not only are you as an applicant using these systems or even this website, again, it's a portal, so it's a little bit more than just your typical website. It's really a place where business is transacted, where day-to-day operations are transacted. So you're applying for a grant is actually embedded into the day-to-day operations of these organizations and their grant management system to manage some of their programs. All right. So you've got the automated standard application for payments, that you would use, once you actually get awarded. They're using that system ASAP. You've got the commercial and government entity or CAGE system. You've got the disaster assistance.gov. You've got Dun and Bradstreet. So the grant solution system that actually helps them to manage the grant process. So it might be interesting, to familiarize yourself with all of these systems. You got SAM system for award management, and we'll talk about that in more detail next week. That's a system for actually register. That's part of the registration process that you're going to have to go through. There's a system for you to actually the federal government uses to track grants. And I think this is pretty interesting, especially for those of you who like to know, where the where the bodies are buried, so to speak, in our government. You can do award search, find out who in the past, what types of awards were made. You could do a recipient search to find out who in the past has actually gotten funding. You could do a site search and advanced searches, right? So you can look at grants by HHS operating division, by recipient class, by activity type, by state, just all kinds of really good information so that you have a better feel for historically, where the money is going, who's getting the money, even in your community. You can find out what people or what organizations in your community have gotten grants. There's even a database for single audits. So you can really study this process, understand how efficiently the government is using our money as taxpayers, find out how your organization stacks up. You can find out, again, how much money your community-based organizations are getting, or if you're even one who gives money, it might be of interest to you to understand how much federal funding organizations that you're about to fund are getting and what programs they're funded under. All right. And then grant programs. These are the various programs, and it's showing you how you can find the programs. You can go under Grants.gov, or you can go through the catalog of domestic assistance. And the catalog of federal domestic assistance not only shares with you grant programs, right? It shows you programs, funding that is available through competitive bid. It also shows you funding that is available for individuals and for benefits. And then for federal, non-federal grant programs, they have relationships with Candid, and Candid is the old GuideStar. GuideStar and the Foundation Center have merged, and together they have become Candid. So Candid has a database of organizations. They're Form 990s, and they have a relationship with the federal government, which means that every document, as far as the 990 is concerned, that the federal government has, Candid has. They automatically release those documents to Candid, and they also have a database of Form 990s for every 990 that has been filed. And then you've got Candid's Funding Information Network, which is a network of organizations that have a number of resources, somewhat like a library, for lack of a better word, that organizations can go to get the technical support that they need as they search for grants. And then they've got the Community Foundation Locator, which is a database of all the community foundations in a region, and they've got that nationally. So as you can see, Grants.gov is a very, very powerful tool. It's not just for applying for grants. And I like this tab too. You've got a tab for people who want to go into grants management. So if you work in grants management, or if you want to learn more about it for your agency, or if you want to learn more about it because you are a consultant, this is a good resource for you. There are pages on grants management. Let's click and see what that means. All right, so they've got a summary of what a federal grants manager does. It's got duties as it relates to the award life cycle. What happens in the pre-award phase, the award phase, and the post-award phase. And we talked about that at length yesterday. So if you missed it, you can go to the Nonprofit Utopia YouTube page and you can look at that video. All right. So this is the grants management page. And then for financial management, for those of you who want to focus just on the financial end of it and not just the operations, here is the Financial Assistance Management Career Roadmap. Let's click on that and see what happens. And just bear with me, it's taking a little longer than I anticipated for this page to load. I'm not quite sure if it's my system or if it's them. I'm not going to take up time waiting for that page to load. But, this is a really interesting page, again, this is the financial assistance management. It talks about the competencies that you need, basic skills that you should have in order to be good at this job. Talks about accountability and compliance and creative thinking, financial analysis, relationship management, project management, and all of that. Let's see if, okay, the CFO.gov page did not ever load, so we won't bother about that. And then next, under the Learn Grants tab, and which is all of those things in this margin, we've got grant reporting. So this tab, once it comes up, should give you an indicator of the requirements for grant reporting. And I'm not sure why it's taking so long to load up. All right, so I like this flow chart here where it talks about how you give uh, your reporting data to the prime awardee. So if you are a subcontractor, you are also responsible for reporting. So you have to report to the prime awardee, and then that prime awardee submits all of their required data to the government, and then the government agency, they use those data to actually make their reports to Congress. All right, and they also use those data to monitor and provide technical assistance, and even provide enforcement where necessary. And when I talk about enforcement, that's where people may have um, either mismanaged the money unwittingly, or they have actually engaged in fraud. Right. So here is a page that actually defines scams and fraud, talks about the cost of fraud, and even talks about ways you, as a member of the public, can help prevent fraud. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comment section and I will get to them afterwards. All right, now this is a page that most people are familiar with. This is a page that you can use to search grants. You can search grants by keyword. So if there's a certain topic you're looking for, say housing, youth development, health and wellness, whatever field you're working in, you can put in a keyword and see what's available. Or if you happen to have seen an opportunity, you can search grants by that opportunity number. Or if you've actually been looking in the catalog of financial domestic assistance and you want more detail, you use that CFDA number and you do that search. All right, so you can do different queries. You can look at, you can do a search by status. Is this a forecasted opportunity? So if an agency is thinking about letting an opportunity, but they haven't actually officially posted yet or officially started accepting funds, they can post something, but you won't see a close date. You'll see where it's posted, and that lets you know that they're thinking about posting an opportunity. When you see a close date, you know that this is when the application is due. You can also search by whether or not it was posted, and these numbers in parentheses let you know how many opportunities there are. You can narrow it down to closed opportunities or archived opportunities. So you can look at what has happened in the past. So for example, if you miss an opportunity and you know it's an opportunity that might come up, once a year, you might want to download the past application and understand what was required, and that will help you in your planning. You can also search by funding instrument type. So is it a cooperative agreement? So when we talk about cooperative agreements, we're talking about whether or not, or we're talking about those instances that you're working cooperatively or in partnership with a federal agency to complete a project. A grant is, those opportunities where your organization is getting money to actually do it themselves or do it um, with a group of other organizations. And then there are other opportunities, and then there's the procurement contract. And those are usually for private entities that are doing bids, right? And then eligibility, what type of um, grantee are you? Are you a city or township government representative? Do you represent a county government? Do you represent a for-profit organization other than a small business? Do you represent a school district, an individual, Native American tribal government that's federally recognized? Or is it a Native American tribal government other than, I'm sorry, an organization that's not a government entity? Are you a 501c3? Are you a nonprofit that doesn't have 503 status with the IRS, right? Other than an institution of higher learning, higher education. Are you others? Are you a private institution of higher education? Are you a public and state controlled institution of higher education? Public housing authority, a small business, special district unit of government, state government, unrestricted, meaning it's open to any type of entity above. So these, so you can search within all these different categories, so you might choose something like housing, but within all of these other categories. So what category? All categories? Do you want it to be under the Affordable Care Act? Or Obamacare? Do you want it to be under agriculture, arts, business and commerce, and so on and so forth? Do you want it, education, disaster prevention? Agencies. What agency? Do you want it to be all agencies and by default it is set on all agencies? Or if you just want to look at one or two or certain few agencies, you can click on to those and it'll just limit your search to those particular agencies. All right. So this area here, these are the various opportunities Okay, so if you click on to one of those links in the first column, it will bring you to the grant related documents. I was saying that we're going to end. Please feel free to leave any comments or questions in the comment section, and I will get back to you just as soon as I can. All right. I do apologize for the connectivity issues. All right. Thanks again and take care. Bye-bye.